Late night build, late night ride to the crib in Flint, Michigan. Cut my mic on a little bit. I don't even know how to My bad. There we go. Peace, peace, peace. Peace, 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 peace. What's up? What's up, everybody? Late night ride to the crib. I'm back in my city, Flint, Michigan. Made a couple stops. Went and seen a couple people. I just wanted to see who up this late night and see what everybody up to. See, can I share a little current events with the people? And see if my people up on what need to be done instead of complaining about what should be done. So ride with your boy. Okay. Yeah, man. Life is always good. Had a long day today. Long day. But peace to the world, man. What's good? Peace to the world. What's poppin'? Yeah, man. Oh, let me turn this down. You know, my ministry don't stop, man, with me when I come back home in my city. I try to tell people ministry is not what you think it is, just somebody in a church. You know, that's not ministry. You know, my ministry is 24/7. And when I tell people, and even about propaganda and things, when a lot of us don't know who we are, and when a lot of, how can I say it, Moors, or I don't care if you're Christian or whatever you profess or whatever your religious belief may be, or if you don't believe in nothing, that's fine with me. But your approach should never be in the way of, how can I say it, force. And I really understand that that's what allows me to vibrate how I vibrate, to go to all different places and, you know, to deal with so-called street brothers and so-called, you know, when I won't say so-called brothers, but so-called brothers that may be in their lower self. And even when I deal with brothers in education and academia, and, you know, even the brothers in different fraternal groups, I'm able to sit down with those brothers and have a clear understanding when I come from a perspective of wisdom and love and enlightenment. When you come with brothers and sisters with wisdom, when it's something like when you bring it in a bad perspective or make it seem like somebody is stupid, you know what I mean? When no one is stupid, you know, you can only know what you know. And a lot of times what we know have a lot to do with our upbringing. You know, it has a lot to do with programming and conditioning. You know, we have to look at, we've been conditioned, and not just we and families, been conditioned to think that they Negro, Black, and color, and African American and slaves. Even in academic endeavors, I had professors from their pseudo perspective that had required a reading was the Willie Lynch. And the Willie Lynch is pseudo. It's not even real. And these are the things that I was able to speak of in academia. And I'm just waiting for my brothers and sisters to recognize this the same way they do in Arizona when I deal with different religious groups. And it's just so much that we don't know. It's so much that I really understand that religion and history and spirituality, whatever you call it, but history and spirituality and divine creed, it all goes together. It's all synonymous. And I really understand people's approach is off. And I come from no disrespect. Just like the so-called Hebrew Israelites, well, that's a misnomer, their approach. Even Islamic brothers' approach, it'd be, anger. And even some Christians, it'd be anger. And I said, how can anything that's supposed to give you love and peace give you the spirit of hate, give you the spirit of anger and malice? And I say, we have a negative spirit on a lot of things, and just the way we do things as a people. And so everything has to do with education. Everything has to do with education. Everything has to do with history. No matter if you Muslim or Christian, once you have a clear understanding historically and educational wise, you can have a clear understanding, and you won't gravitate to a man-made religion. The map and a guide that you would deal with would just be that, a map and a guide and a teacher. When in all different houses of spirituality, I may have a different title. For an analogy, when I'm in Arizona, when I deal with my European Jewish, I'm rabbi or Melchizedek. When I deal with my Moors brothers and sisters, I'm sheik. I tell people I'm transparent. I've been through, like M.L. King said it, I've been through the burning house. Just like all, holy men. We don't diss wisdom. We don't diss the Bible and things when we understand. Farrakhan don't diss the biblical scriptures. And if you're from the Nation of Islam, your paper, your Act 1 say that you believe in the truth of the Bible, but it's been tampered with, and it need to be illuminated by the elite or the scholars per se. The same thing with the biblical scripture says. And that's what I tell my brothers and sisters. We have to get that negative connotation out of our head when we say this is some white man or some European or some Albions or history or science. Even when it comes to the Kemetic science or when it comes to masonry and things, and brothers and sisters use Instagram and TikTok to get a negative connotation of this Kemetic science, and it all comes from us. It all comes from the continent of Africa. When I talk about this science, and when I give it from an honest and true perspective, it's nothing secret. With me, everything is sacred. The initiation is the wisdom. We don't take an oath. We are initiated through wisdom, just like anything in academia. When you're going through, say, a elementary, middle school, high school, if you go to college, if you get a say associate's, then a bachelor's, then a master's, then a doctoral, that's in the context of a form of initiation. What do I mean? Because you're being initiated into understanding. You're being initiated into wisdom. You're not taking no oath to not tell people the truth. And when I come from an educational perspective and from a scholar's perspective, and when I come scholastically with a silver tongue, if you are a true educator, a true light seeker, a true map and a guide, then it's a thing called peer-reviewed scholarly research. Now, the thing is, when you get into academia, your Holy Spirit have to take you to do the research, because you will see a lot of religious brothers and sisters that are diss academia and diss wisdom. Oh, it's a piece of paper, and the first thing they'll say is the white man, and the education, and they the sellouts. And I'm like, that's an excuse. Because you haven't met all educated brothers like myself and others. You ain't met true light seekers like myself. I'm from Flint, Michigan. My brother killed Jelani Goodman Bay was murdered in the city. My big cousin was murdered in front of my homie house. My cousin that got murdered in front of my homie house, his brother killed him. And so I come from a perspective of understanding, especially a lot of melanated brothers and sisters, if you didn't grow up and your mother and father wasn't Islamic, and if any spirituality you was under was Christianity, no matter if it was Big Mama or whatever it was. And I try to tell people to have a clear understanding of what it is, because we don't have to diss nothing. If we can teach it from an educational perspective to show the historical aspect of it, which can't be denied. I don't care if you're dealing with the Septuagint, that's coming from the Hebrew perspective. I mean, so much things when you're in scholarship, I've had the pleasure to sit and have conversations with academia and PhDs and chairs of academia to be able to prove what I'm saying. When I talk about like the Book of Mormon, that was plagiarized by the View of the Hebrews. So much history, and the Old and the New Testament. I can prove that the misnomer black man is the father of civilization, proved by the Bible. I don't care if you're dealing with the Old Testament or the New Testament. That's why a lot of stuff is told to keep a lot of brothers in subjugation, for you won't know the true history, and they put it in folk tales. Like when I do real history, why you think? Listen, man, a lot of stuff, like I'll give an analogy like Behold the Pale Horse and a lot of other things, where a lot of people talk about aliens. Ain't no damn aliens. Anunnaki ain't no aliens. They the Iberians. I mean, and if anybody want to get into an argument, I'm not going to argue with nobody. That's not going to be a waste of my time. It's either going to be someone that disagree because it's propaganda, or they coming from a perspective, or anytime when they hear, just like, even with more science, it's so much stuff that's just been taken out of context. And you can't put it all in the same box. That's just like saying all misnomer black people are criminals, or all, say, misnomer Europeans are the Ku Klux Klan, or all Europeans are evil. That don't make sense. Or when somebody see the feds, they try to say, oh, the people that wore the feds was traitors. But when I tell you that Leopold from Belgium, when he came to the Congo, he used the fez as part of his army uniform. Just like Hitler. A lot of them was under Islam. They used the fez as part of their army uniform as well. And so when people, be talking and just don't want to understand history from a right perspective, it's kind of disheartening. When you can't see yourself in nothing. And I say that's the thing. Well, what made misnomer black people hate themselves so much? When it don't matter, and when someone will just sit you down and try to say, well, let's agree to disagree. No, we can't agree to disagree. There's no reason to agree to disagree. If you say you believe in the truth of the Bible, and then we deal with it, and it shows the culture and the perspective of it, what you mean? Let's agree to disagree. Because history is always going to agree. And so I think a lot of our brothers and sisters' approach is off, especially like in the continent of Europe. All this stuff is known. Like all this stuff is known in the continent of Europe in certain places. But it's up to us to teach this. Everybody talking about, what Trump is going to do, and public education and this and that and the other. And I say, okay, well, if that's the case, and I'm just saying all the churches and things, well, you should teach all the classrooms. When we teach from a right perspective, things can be done, and you don't be worried about nothing, because solutions is already done. But, when you depend on, how can I say, the government to raise your children, and to even feed your children, then what can you say? Man, there's so much to be talked about, man, to where we can resurrect ourselves, but we so caught up on, I just don't know. We, like misnomer black people, can't agree to some things. Because when I deal with my European Jewish colleagues, they don't walk out the house in disagreement. Because when you're dealing with the fact of the matter is, you can't disagree with nothing if you say that you believe in a certain perspective. It's just what it is. And even when I deal with my European colleagues, biblical historians and Islamic historians, and a lot of Islamic historians, they're not Islamic per se. they're historians, you know. Like, but myself, I'm a historian of Islamic, Christian, and history and all that. Just like if you had a professor and he or she is teaching you Islamic studies, they don't have to be Islamic per se, especially if they're teaching philosophy of it or the history of it. That just might be their expertise or their practice. So when they teaching it from that perspective, that's what they're doing. It just so happens that I'm a teacher and I understand who I am. And it can be, and I can contextualize it in a perspective to make it relatable to my brothers and sisters and all others that don't look like me. You know? And that's what I tell people, man. I don't how can I say, people before us, but we can correct certain things in history where we can say, okay, well, this individual or these individuals got us here, but now we're here. And now we can add on to things. And now we can dissect things. Just like when I talk about, no disrespect, I love all my Islamic brothers and my Muslim brothers. Just like the Million Man March. And it's no disrespect. When Farrakhan came to the Million Man March in 95, and he came with that whole Willie Lynch propaganda, I said right then, I'm like, oh, now here we go again. That's not scholarship. It's pseudo. It's academia. I mean, it's pseudo-academia. It's Eurocentric and it's Negrocentric propaganda. It's no such thing as a Willie Lynch. If it was a Willie Lynch letter, my brothers and sisters and all true light seekers, it will be in the Library of Congress. And I did my oral dissertation on this whole specific topic. Came with the peer-reviewed scholarly research. Came with where it came from. And they let misnumbered black people run with it. The language, the linguistics is all off. The continent of the area of where this is supposed to come from, the linguistics and the writing of the names and everything is off. And in that time period, I tell people, black was never used to describe ethnicity. So it's just so much that we have to re-educate ourselves. And like Carter G. Woodson said, the miseducation of the Negro. And it's so, I mean, it's so wide open right now, you know? And it's just sad to see brothers and sisters to be arguing over things that's not even, shouldn't even be argued about, you know? It shouldn't be. But yes, it's certain people, and that's all through history, that can take a certain piece of wisdom or a certain, how can I say, even anything and use it in the wrong perspective. But we can't let that tittle of misguided individuals be the majority of what we get. And so I just wanted to say that as I'm riding back home. And like I said, I'm in my city of Flint, Michigan. And when I go out places, man, I just try to talk to brothers and sisters, man. As a map and a guide. Like I said, I can go anywhere. Because everywhere I'm covered. You know? But I tell people, man, everything is your approach. Everything is your approach. Especially for those that know what's really going on in the world and really know how to use their higher self to vibrate and to use those vibrations to do good things and to be good, you know, and always understand health, wealth, and knowledge of self. I mean, I know it sounds so simple or cliche, but it's exactly what it is. So, like I said, once again, brothers and sisters, I know it's a late night. It's about midnight here in Flint, Michigan. I just want to tell y'all love. And like I said, man, this science that I teach is for the whole family. You know, and I just hope brothers and sisters really wake up and join the BBT, man, and subscribe to our Temple and School YouTube page at Burning Bush Tabernacle Science Temple and School. And tomorrow at 2 p.m. AZ time zone, I think what is in Flint, Michigan, what is Eastern time, if I'm not mistaken. But in Flint, for my Flint people, it'll be 5 p.m. Tap in, man. We're gonna have a good conversation tomorrow to have dialogue, and we have Bible study, we have Islamic studies, we have book club, we work out, we do all that. We have financial classes about macroeconomics, microeconomics, and we talk about, everything. We look at all these deers. But as we continue to build, man, and as we continue to, be better in everything we do, I tell all my muftis, this science should make you better in your regular life. Like a lot of brothers and sisters got into this more science as criminals, or running away from something, or think that sign some papers thinking they can get something. But this more science is for the family, and it make you a better man, it make you a better woman. It helps you raise your kids better. It helps you discipline yourself. So when you talk about homeschooling, you don't have to take your kids out of the public schools. Homeschooling is just what it is. When your kids at home, you homeschool them. When your kids at home, you homeschool them and prepare them for the world. And so when they're in the world, they can be who they are. Man, why is my garage not open? What the hell? Oh, there we go. Sorry about that, y'all. I just pulled up. It's a little dark out here. A whole bunch of deers out here too. But yeah, man. I ain't want too much. I just wanted to share that with my brothers and sisters, man. Our approach, and we got to get with the right Moors, with the right science. Because it is a lot of things that's wrong. It is a lot of, how can I say, brothers out here that talk that sovereign citizen, Roger Elvick, stuff criminal. It is. And I tell everybody, yes, it is. And everybody have the right to talk about that. Everybody have the right, because it's public information. And no one can be mad at those things when on an average you see a lot of, I just say people in a lower self that feel they can put on the feds and then Google a whole bunch of stuff or Wikipedia and then come up with a whole bunch of old laws and take them out of context and say, well, we this and we that, and this is our land, and talk about canceling corporate debt. Like, all that stuff is not real. And so we do have to talk about that, because a lot of people have lost their lives, dealing with those type of behaviors. A lot of so-called people, especially during the so-called pandemic, it got popular, and you saw a lot of these people just Ponzi scheming and pyramid scheming, and then a lot of people, indulging in fallacy, but then misusing it, saying it's more science, saying this is more science, and this is what Noble Drew Ali taught. Noble Drew Ali ain't teach none of that crap. We have a divine creed and a proclamation. And I tell anybody, if you want to know anything about the bylaws and about anything, deal with a real sheikh or a real light seeker like myself and others that can give you the information on the temple and say, that's not more science. Let people say that's the thing that they came up with. And they know that's Roger Elvick, sovereign citizen stuff. Also look up the Paradigm Group in Canada. And that's where a lot of these brothers and sisters have got that and dressed themselves up as charlatans. Like, I'll give you another analogy. Like, you may have heard these brothers and a brother call himself the consulate of Morocco. And then people act like they can't talk about it. Well, he is the consulate of Morocco, and he's fighting for our freedom. Ain't nobody fighting for our freedom. If you understand the laws, your freedom is there. We must unite. Like, can't nobody come and dress themselves up and play pretendo and act and I tell people, oh, that's domestic terrorists, foreign and abroad. How? When you playing officials, you're not an official from no Morocco. I don't care what. Nobody voted you for no consulate in Morocco. Nobody voted no president of Morocco. All that stuff is like somebody is a fallacy, like somebody religious group. And when you playing that game of I call it fake monopoly, then in the real laws, you gonna be proven crazy. And the first thing they do is get court appointed attorneys and they plead to lesser charges. I know too many brothers, I'm not gonna say names, that the powers that be say they schizophrenic and all this. I'm telling you, I know too many brothers. Even a lot of the women, they don't, and then I ask them, where did you get this stuff from? And they don't want to say it. But then when you educate and when you understand language and semantics, you can get a person caught up. How? Because I ask you the same thing 15 different ways, and then you would just tell on yourself. And I ask all grown men that say they study more science, what made you wait till you become an adult to get all this fallacy stuff and break the laws and be a criminal? What made you do this? Just like all those Moors that got caught on the highway, and the dude, and I tell people, I said, dude, you got the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. And you get on the internet with these people in a makeshift court in a basement that smell like mothballs, and you talk about you discussing your case on YouTube with the Moorish consulate. And this is a real, and before they all was in court, this is a real case. And you on there telling everything, telling the whole thing. It's like, dude, they using all that against you. And I was like, how these people is not competent to be doing nothing or lead nobody or anything. Or anything. But brothers think they some Moroccans and all this old crazy stuff. And brother be thinking they some foreign nationals and some sovereign citizens. And they be having all this paperwork that somebody done printed on the internet. And I say, dude, you are wasting your time. You know? But brothers and sisters, like I said, a lot of stuff fall on deaf ears. But as we always say, a clean glass and a dirty glass. You can tell a clean glass, dirty glass at all times. And we should be able to talk about this science because it's being took in the wrong perspective. I mean, I can even talk about so much. I'm 48. I've seen so much. I've seen Moors in certain areas call themselves the king of the Moors, and they buy a whole bunch of Masonic stuff on the internet, and they just be talking nonsense. I've seen so much. I've seen Moors call themselves the what they call themselves, what they call themselves, the consulate generals and all this with the man that everybody say is their grand sheik, and it ain't no disrespect, with another man, and they was so-called nationalizing people. And I told everybody it was fake. And a lot of people got in trouble for that. Even a lot of people lost their lives for these things. And I'll be telling people this over and over. I'm like, dude, we could talk about these criminal behaviors. It's just like precedent law cases and doc numbers. And just like, say if you knew somebody that was hustling, right? And they a federal informant, they got caught up. And then they right back in the streets hustling and everything to people that you know, right? But then I tell you, it's a such thing called precedent law cases, doc numbers, and Free Information Act. And they say, and people say, well, what you mean, Sheik? And I said, you can look up these people cases. You can't get mad when a person can look up your case, you know? And so all this stuff is precedented law cases and doc numbers. When I tell people, nobody never went to no court of law and won with none of that stuff. I don't care. No stuff you see on the internet. Most of them niggas went to court for traffic tickets or squatting in houses. I'm telling you facts, because I can give you their real names. You'll be like, Sheik, that's 100% facts. I'm saying, I know it is. These people not doing nothing because it's already been done. All the stuff been done. All the stuff, I want to claim right now, it's already been done. It's already been done. So everything these people trying to do individually, talk about canceling corporate debt and squatting in housing and this our land, man, it's all BS. And if anybody want to have a real honest discussion about it, we can. But most people don't, because they be butthurt. And when you've been lying and when you're a criminal, the first thing you start doing is getting mad and snotting at the nose and saying they didn't do that.
I thought I heard a voice.
Oh, that's my mom. You know? And so like I said, my life be real, man. Like, I'm back home in my city of Flint. I go everywhere, talk to my people. People ask me to come. It don't matter what time it is. And they ask me, man, it's this and that. And they say, well, man, we really, really want you to come home and establish something. I said, we can, if the people make it happen, because it's a lot of things that we don't know, history wise, religious wise, comedic science wise, Masonic wise, finance wise, just so many things that we need to be resurrected on, and we can have a good conversation, you know, and build our brothers and sisters up, especially those that say they more, especially, you know, a lot of people that's getting misinformation by watching YouTube videos and watching these people act like they have some special power. And I'm like, they don't. They don't, you know, none. Yeah, we could talk about all the people that, you know, gone and all that, which that's fine. Okay, but what we gonna do now? Because if we can't come together and do some of the things that our prophet did and some of the other great people, what are we talking about? You know, we're not using our abilities, we're not using our finances to come together, especially Moors that say they study Moorish science. And I say, how do you study more? And I ask a person, tell me what's Moorish science? Because you talk about all these laws and all this stuff, that's not Moorish science. That's civics. That's law. And law has criminal law, local law, state law, federal law, indigenous people law and policy, driving laws, all type of laws, you know, 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, which none of them know, manumissions. So a lot of them be hangmanning themselves. But when we talk about this Moorish science, I ask everybody, have they read the Moorish Quran? Nope. I said, well, you clearly not studying Moorish science. And you have to be honest, because if Moorish science is a holy book, then that's what it is. So the Quran and divine comes first. You must read the divine to at least get you in a perspective of what? Peace. But most people, they don't even calm their spirit. They jump in this, well, man, I heard the Moors, they don't pay taxes. And I heard you can squat in the houses. And I heard I can fill out this paper and get some money and all that. No, not. Only thing you're going to do is get in trouble. Only thing you're going to do is be looked at as a sovereign citizen. I'm telling you, you'll be looked at as a domestic terrorist, foreign and abroad. I'm telling you, big facts. I know too many people, and I know professors that's Moors. I know people from all over the continent that's Moors. You know, I know doctors that's Moors. I'm in Flint, Michigan. It's a doctor that work at Hurley that's a Moor that wears fez every day. When he saw my mama going up there for us, you know, she was going up there to read to some kids. He saw my mom with her turban on, and he was like Islam, and they got to talking and showed them pictures of me. You know, just like the temples. When I don't be bashing nothing, but hell, the truth is the truth. I'm from Flint, Michigan. The Moorish Science Temple of America is on M.L. King, one of the oldest historical, spiritual, and I call it educational houses in our city of Flint, and it's not even operating right. You can look up the Moorish Science Temple in Flint, Michigan right now, and I guarantee you look up the number. The number been disconnected, and them niggas be meeting up there like they some secret squirrels. You have to have the right people in place. Especially if you're mapping a guide, the map and a guide have to not only understand what more science, he have to understand, or she have to understand business. He have to understand how to work with people. He have to understand how to get things done. And I hope you want that person to be an educator and have some real life, holistic, how can I say it, reality of what he or she is talking about. And not just propaganda and not just spookism. You know, just like, for instance, I'll give another analogy when I was in my studies, and when I'm back home in Arizona, I go on the campus every Wednesday and lecture and provide books to college students. And a lot of the European Jews, you know, they was watching that podcast with Nick Cannon and Professor Griff. And he was talking about the Jews and all this and the European Jew, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of the students was talking about, well, he's just talking about propaganda. And I said, yeah, because he don't have, and my professor, which we loved to have a dialogue, and he was like, well, Sheed Goodman Bay, this is when I was getting my dual master's degree at GCU. I was like, well, I'm going to break it down from the perspective so we can illuminate it all. Because a lot of people, when they trying to act like, you know, come from, I won't say a biased perspective, but when you don't use, how can I say, the ammo that they put in their gun to shoot at them, then it's really, really valid. And so I said, all I have to do is use the Jewish encyclopedia, and it's gonna reveal all that. I can use the proof to tell you where anti-Semitic come from scholarship. And so when the Jewish professor came on there and it kind of apologized and donated to their synagogue and all that, that wouldn't have happened with me. No disrespect. Why? Because I would have used their science. I would have used all the history. I would have showed where all the phrase anti-Semitic came from their history. I would have got the Jewish encyclopedia right in their face. I would have broke down everything. It would nothing. No rabbi could have came and said nothing. No rabbi could have came something. They probably would have was sitting there with their mouth all hard, because most of the people, they're not historians of biblical history. And when you're a historian of biblical history, then you have the language, then you have the linguistics, and then that propaganda that a lot of people promulgate. I don't care what color you are, Eurocentric or Negrocentric, it can be destroyed. What? With the peer-reviewed scholarship, with their own book. This is what a scholar does with their own book. I don't have to go outside and I use their history. I use their Jewish text to prove them wrong. I even use the book where Europeans be saying they Ephraim. You can't be Ephraim. You can be adopted into the so-called religion and all that, but you can't replace the bloodline and all this stuff that I've done in academia. And it's just facts. And so when you teach from a right perspective, when you teach from a knowledge perspective, when you say, okay, let's deal with the scholarship, the peer-reviewed scholarship is going to take you back to where you need to go. And these are just facts. Brothers and sisters, and even with our prophet Noble Drew Ali, it was Moors before our prophet. You had Deuce Muhammad Ali that wrote his own papers. You had Adil Hamid Solomon. You had Moors. Our prophet created the Moorish Science Temple of America. But this science is old, History is old. Even when I drop things down about Berber, which really is Amazigians, freemen, and the negative connotation of Berber is barbarian, just like black-ish. And when a lot of people try to use ish as a negative connotation, but then that's always the lower self, more-ish. And ish, Jew-ish, is the culture, is the everything about you being in that set, the way you dress, the way you treat your people, the way you love your empresses, etc. That's the ish in a positive connotation that makes us Moorish. But a lot of our brothers say, oh, Moors, the Arab, this, and that, and the other. It ain't no such thing as Arab. When I deal with scholarship, you can get Vladimir Dale's Ancient Dictionary of an Arab. And it's not spelled A-R-A-B, it's spelled A-R-A-P, Arab. And then you can get Vladimir Dale, not Vladimir Dale, but Bertram Thomas' books, The Arab. And he'll tell you who the ancient Arab is. And then I can get a Dar book, it'll tell you who the Book of the Mormon tell you who the Israelites is. From the history, you have to be able to deal with the linguistics. And even when I deal with my Islamic brothers, no disrespect, with my Al-Islam brothers, when they be painting their beard red and all this, and they don't want to talk about the Islamic slave trade and the Bukhari Hadith when it names all the slaves and all this other. And then when I deal with the Saratic language, when I be fact checking all those Al-Islam brothers of the language and the Africanness of those ancient forefathers that they all want to pay a whitewash, they don't have nothing to say. And this come from facts. It's nothing biased about what I'm saying. It's nothing biased about what I'm saying. People get, just like I give you an analogy when I say a lot of people always try to come with anger and force because they have a misunderstanding. Like I was dealing with, or I wasn't dealing with them. I was just listening to these people debate. Somebody just asked me to listen, and I'm listening to Christians and Islamic brothers arguing, and I said, this is stupid. But I'm listening to these fools on campus, and the Al-Islam pale Arab brother talking about, okay, well, your Bible says if somebody hit you, turn the other cheek and blah, blah, blah. Would you do that? And they be wanting me to say something. And I'm just up there, lecturing and providing ancient books and stuff because I have them. I have a full library. And one of the students said, well, she Goodman Bay. And I was right there, feds on. I'm listening. I'm in the back, because I'm talking to some students. And when the Islamic brother said that, the first thing he said, well, do you know what a metaphor is? Everybody was like, huh? And I said, because the brother, because I'm alumni, I go there and I lecture because they have a thing called Student Union. They have funds to donate to lecturers and academia that's willing to do that and provide history and scholarship for the students. I come up there and I break all the language down. And I broke down what metaphors is and all that, showed him what metaphors is, showed him what analogy, parable, and symbology. And the brother couldn't say nothing. He was like, that's a metaphor. He was like, that's a metaphor, and it's been explained. And I said, you see, people would just take things out of context to try to prove a point, and it's no point to be proven. Do you know what a metaphor is? No, well, you can't have no conversation with nobody because what you just explained is a metaphor. And this is a fact. It's nothing to deny. It's nothing to argue about. That's a metaphor. So if you don't know what a metaphor is, the first thing I tell a person is digress and go back and research that. But then now, if you don't really know what metaphor is, an analogy and parable is, and a language, now you have to be willing to be a student because you're going to have to go back and research everything that you thought you knew. You know what I mean? From your programming, if you don't know the language, I'll give you an analogy. If you have a book, just like I say the Bible, and you have all versions of the Bible, but the Bible was written in a specific language or signs and symbols, and they like Koine Greek and things. And if you don't know certain words that's English, you can't transliterate words and make them up as they go. You know, you got to translate them. So if they mean this, then it mean this. So you can't take a word and say, well, we think it mean this. Like in the Bible, it's a word called, and it's finished, it's fulfilled. In that context, it's a Greek word called poliro, meaning to magnify and bring back to its remembrance. It's so much detailed work. It's so much detailed work that needs to go on with these things. And when you look at, especially Islamic texts, and when you look at the language and the Saratic language and the text, you're going to be like, whoa. You're going to start seeing things, but that's the detailed work that needs to be done when we have a lot of people that try to separate us and they use religion to separate us, and it's no separation. The Bible and the Quran, them boys, you can tie them together. I promise y'all this, but tap in tomorrow at 2 p.m. AZ time zone, and I think if anybody in Michigan, in my Flint, Detroit area, my people, I think that's Eastern time, 5 p.m. Tap in here on my page or on my Temple and School page at Burning Bush Tabernacle Science Temple and School. I love y'all, man, and peace.